Everybody, and welcome to episode 440 of Unboxing Wednesdays for comics not arriving in stores on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. I'm your host, Kevin Hickey from StadiumComics.com, and I'm coming to you from the Stadium Self-Isolation Bunker, which is located 60 meters below the surface of Stadium Comics. We are safe here. We are self-isolated, and we are sanitized. And we are also with our very sanitized co-host, Mr. Ricky Lima. Ricky, say hello.
Yeah, what's up? I'm still chilling underground. It's pretty good, pretty good. I like it.
Are you paying attention to the news? Any chance of you coming up out of the ground anytime soon?
Well, I don't know. Let's see if I can, if I just raise myself up. No, not coming.
It's like Groundhog Day, but with a potato.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So until Potato Ricky arises from his shallow grave and doesn't see his shadow, this COVID-19 thing is still gonna keep going. So let's try to keep that shadow away. Ricky, a ton of stuff happened at the end of last week and the beginning of this week in the comic industry. We're here today to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on from the comic retailer perspective, and also just to talk about us and do some shameless self promotion. Right? That's always good.
We got
Uh,
to.
so a little shop update. Last week we did a Facebook live sale on Thursday night, right here out of the Stadium Comics bunker. And did you get a chance to watch it, Ricky?
I caught a bit of it, yeah.
Ah, I see. Just a bit of it. Yes, I see now where your loyalties lie. Too much Tiger King on Netflix. You didn't want to turn away. I get it. I get it. Hurts a little bit, but uh, the sale went really well. Very, very well. We sold out of most of the things that we put up on offer. And that was our third Facebook Live sale. And it was our first sale during this period of shutdown for the comic industry. And I gotta say that I one thing I learned from the sale is people are still really, really, really involved in the hobby of collecting and reading comics, and they're still hungry for comics and still willing to open up their wallets, even though we're in really troubling times, to help out stores like ours. And I think stores that have taken this approach of having more of a interactive online presence and focus are really going to come out of this with some excellent tools for business going forward. I see a lot of other retailers doing it, and it's so good to see that we're embracing and adapting during challenging times. And I gotta say, for it being the third one that we did, it was the most successful one that we did as well. So really thankful to everybody who was able to participate. And if you didn't get a chance to participate, no worries. You will get an opportunity to participate again real soon with some other stuff that we're planning. Yes, we definitely have a lot of really fun interactive stuff planned in the very near future. So stay tuned for details on that. No new comics again this week, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast. We do continue to reach out to some of our members for shipping out their books, and we're currently working on our next big sale, and we're working on getting our comic boxer shipments out, organized and out for the month of May. We're also working on something really, really big and major that we want to announce, not on this episode. I think a few more pieces have to come together before we make the big announcement. But right now, we're planning for Wednesday night. So if you're watching this on Wednesday night, April, I guess 22nd, around maybe 8 or 9 p.m. I think, let's say, you know what, Ricky, let's say 8 p.m. Wednesday night. We're going to make a big announcement from right here in the stadium bunker. It's going to be live, a live streamed announcement. And I'm really excited about the news that we're going to have to share. Ricky, I don't think you know what it is that we're talking about either. You're going to be pretty surprised.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
me.
you're in the dark. You're in the dark on this one.
Well, I am underground. So I
But we do have an announcement for tonight, Ricky, don't we?
think we do,
We're
Kevin.
we're gonna wet everyone's beak a little bit. We can't have them show up and not get some big scoop from Stadium Comics and Ricky Lima. Ricky, why don't you tell them about it? And
Well,
I'm just gonna bring something up on the screen here.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, Comic Boxer is a cool thing that you guys do,
right,
and you're looking for cool exclusives and to make the value of the box go up.
right.
So, Stadium Comics and Lime Press, which is my shell company for what I do, is we're collaborating on a cover to reprint. Well, not even reprint, like just to make issue number one with a cool new homage cover to X-Men 14, which is the first appearance of Sentinel. Look at that. He's
That is pretty awesome.
So that's art from Shane Heron, colors by Jeffrey Miles, and we did a sweet homage. Do you have, I guess, the X-Men 14 to compare? Or?
I didn't prepare that in advance at all, but I feel like to show that X-Men 14 by the legendary Jack Kirby would be a disservice to the the amazing artwork of Shane Heron here for Undergrowth number one, the Stadium Comics exclusive cover for Undergrowth number one from Lime Press. Um, and it is a fantastically drawn cover. I think Ricky, dare I say, and I might be a little biased here, the best cover for Undergrowth number one. I know
Yeah,
you have to remain impartial. It's
yeah.
your book, and you work with a lot of different artists and collaborators when you're putting something like this together. But I mean, we'll let the people decide. I think this cover takes the cake. Um,
No, I think it came out really awesome. At first, homage covers for me, I'm like, I don't know, just do something new. But then when you guys were talking about the Sentinel cover, I was like, you know what, that makes sense. Giant robots, you
right?
know what? So then, so then Shane, he whipped it up, and I was like, yo, this is so good. So then,
I was surprised with how quickly it came together, and it's going to be really fun to include it in Comic Boxer. For those of you who don't know, Comic Boxer is a monthly mystery box service that we offer through Stadium Comics, where you get 5 uh, curated comics sent to your door each and every month. We pick the books. We've put a lot of fun stuff in there over the years. People generally dig it and like it. We don't advertise it so much because it's always pretty much near our operational capacity. And we keep it at a level that's manageable for us to work with on a month-to-month basis. So,
well,
we're a
with
pretty
this
small
cover, it's
small
gonna
team here.
explode, bro.
We run the risk, Ricky, of this being the most successful comic boxer ever included for this book. And I rumor has it this will be a signed edition as well.
Yeah,
So
man, I'm gonna sign the shit out of it
we know
tonight.
we know Ricky's going to sign it, and we're going to try to coordinate Shane's signatures on it. But we're in a time of crisis, so we'll see what we can do to make that happen. So yeah, really excited about that. Cover looks amazing, and I've already read issue number one. It's a great comic, and I think our fans are really gonna, our comic boxer subscribers and fans are really gonna like it. Um, and yeah, looking forward to the finished version of it when it comes out. So thanks for collaborating on that. That was awesome.
No, thank you, man. It's gonna come out wicked.
Nice. All right. Well, what else are you up to other than making Stadium Comics rich with all of its comic boxer money?
Yeah, man, that's it, man. Because like usually I work at a second cup near my house. Now I can't do that,
Just
so
to clarify, Ricky, you don't work like for Second Cup,
no, like
right?
work on my stuff at a second cup.
Yeah, you do
And,
the coffee shop laptop thing, right?
exactly. Yeah, I'm one of those hipsters who's working on a screenplay. It's great.
Yeah.
But since the shutdown, like, yo, I find it so hard to work at home, man. Like, I got video games here. Like,
A
that's what
lot of
I'm doing.
distractions at home, right? A lot of
Yeah.
distractions.
So,
Um,
and like, I had that Kickstarter for the Millennium Bomb. So, like, I'm on a deadline. I got people waiting for these books. So I got to like work on it, but it's tough.
what's the Wi-Fi like? Slightly below the surface of your bathroom.
I got some Wi-Fi extenders. It's pretty good.
Okay. We need to get a
Yeah.
few of those for the Stadium Comics bunker.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Wi-Fi can crap out on us. Well, Ricky, a ton happened in the comic industry last week. Let's cover some of that. So this is the fourth Wednesday in a row without new comic book releases. Who would have thought we could go so long without a new comic Wednesday? We've been an industry-wide shutdown for 4 weeks. Some stores have been shut down for even longer than that. Depending on where they're located, they might have had some, restrictions on whether they could operate or not. Go, well in advance of the industry-wide shutdown. And there's been some distributor drama this week. Like I'm sure you've read about some of it online. All this
I've
distributor
been,
stuff.
yeah, my Google feed ever since WrestleMania has been showing me tons of WWE news, and it's like really annoying because I don't want to see that. So now I gotta like retrain my Google to stop showing me wrestling news.
That's so weird.
I know it sucks.
So weird. Um, well, anyway, for those of you who have been living like a potato for the last week, the week ended on Friday with Diamond Comics, who is the main distributor for comic books and comic book shops all around the world. They announced that they were planning to start up their distribution services again around mid to late May. That's what they were targeting, which actually like came as some really good news because there's been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of rumors flying around as to when they're going to open. Will they ever open again? Can they pay their distributor or pay the publishers? And there was a lot of uncertainty there for a little bit, but to hear the news that they were targeting mid to late May gave us as retailers something to look forward to, and also customers something to look forward to. But that wasn't all the news we got on Friday. In the afternoon, sometime, we got some news from DC Comics. Of course, we've been talking on the last few episodes of how kind of hit and miss they've been with their communication with retailers and stuff over the last little bit. Um, so they came out with news that they had lined up two new distributors to get comics flowing to stores with an on sale date of as soon as April 28th, which is a Tuesday, by the way. I should mention it's not your traditional Wednesday. The thought behind that is DC's trying to line up their release schedule. They every other industry in the world has new releases on Tuesdays, right? Movies, DVDs. I guess just movies and stuff, right? Maybe books. I don't know.
No,
What's
I
the
think
publishing world like?
these days.
It's like any day in book
Well,
publishing.
for where I work in America, they want you to release on Tuesdays, but in Canada, it's not really. They don't
Okay.
really.
So DC, there's been this thought that DC's trying to align all of their like entertainment properties to release on the same day each week. So if somebody's going, theoretically, if somebody's going to the store to get the new like uh, Warner Brothers Blu-ray, I mean, like who's going to buy it? Are you still going to stores to buy Blu-rays? I don't know.
Not right now. No.
Well, yeah, definitely not right now. I know some people are, but so hypothetically, like people get into this mindset that all the new stuff comes out on Tuesday. The comic industry has worked really hard to have like their own day for comic releases, and they worked really hard at it years ago to make Wednesday New Comic Book Day. So DC is going to go with these two new distributors and still Diamond, but they're going to allow the sale of their books online or digitally and physically starting Tuesday and starting Tuesday, April 28th, as early as that. Now, it's a small number of books, and it's not anything that's like earth shattering. It's stuff like a reprint of Nightwing number 70, which is part of the Punchline story, and a reprint of Batman 89, I believe, which is the first cameo of Punchline. And then some other books, some of Joe Hill's books. Nothing that's like a huge blockbuster release. Batman '92 is supposed to come out, like just before the shutdown. Or not, sorry, just before, just after the shutdown happened. Batman '92 was scheduled to be released, which they've sold a ton of copies of. It's the first full appearance of Punchline, but that's been pushed back now to June. And it seems like DC's testing the waters here with 2 new distributors. And it's giving comic shops who have the ability to serve customers the option of having new comics come into their stores as early as next Wednesday. Um, so this has created a ton of controversy and upheaval in the retailing world, comic retailing world, because it turns out the 2 new distributors, Lunar Distribution and UCS, they popped out of nowhere overnight, and with some very, very basic fact finding and researching skills, it was quickly determined that Lunar Distribution is a company under the umbrella of DCBS, which is a discount comic retailing service. So they're really, really big online presence. And UCS is a division of Midtown Comics. Everybody knows Midtown Comics. So these are 2 comic retailers that have now stepped up and are offering, the use of their distribution network to get DC stuff out to retailers. So these retailers have now become wholesalers. So the industry, this flew the whole industry into a rage on Friday. Of course, we talked on a previous episode about how upset retailers were when the Comics Hub people, being that they're retailers themselves as well, came up with a plan to sell digital copies to customers with them getting the physical copy after the fact. So a lot of retailers are saying that this DC thing is even worse. They're upset that they weren't consulted about it. They're upset that DC is using competitors of theirs to get the books out to the market. And it's been a really stressful time for retailers. So first there was the whole, call for publishers to stop producing books when stores started to go into shutdown mode before the whole industry shut down. Of course, there was pretty much radio silence from the publishers and all that. Then Diamond Comics did eventually shut down, and many retailers breathed like a cautious sigh of relief as they were facing being closed while the new books came out, and those that could stay open for online sales or curbside pickup or whatever, they were upset as now they had no new product to sell. So you had like this whole battle of haves versus have-nots going on. DC and Marvel have also been really bad with communicating, will they or won't they, in terms of releasing digital in advance of the print copies coming out once everything resumes. There was the whole Comic Hub thing, and then retailers have had to adapt to new ways of running the business, like we talked about earlier. And lots of shops in the U.S., particularly, have had trouble getting any funding or support from their governments. There's a whole slew of retailers that have applied for the payroll protection loans that the U.S. government's offering, and that have all been turned down for it. So there's not a lot of places for retailers to turn other than some of the charity stuff that we'll talk about in a second. So tensions are really high. People are trying to figure out their businesses and their lives. The situation is changing almost every minute. Communication has been really poor. And retailers are wary about giving their information to these 2 new distributors. But DC's testing the waters, and we're going to have to see how successful the test is. But the one thing's for sure is there's unfortunately kind of a fractured retailer market right now. We're definitely not united. There's retailers that are pitted against each other. And it's not fun behind the scenes, and unfortunately the customer, unaware to them, kind of get caught up in the politics of it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like I understand retailers are trying to protect, their livelihood and stay in business and stuff. But I mean, isn't that what Marvel and DC are doing as well. Like you can't expect them just to be like, well, stores are closed. We're just not going to make any money ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is Marvel and DC supposed to do in a situation like this?
Oh, listen, it's an unprecedented situation for all sides and for everybody. Um, but it's crazy that for we've heard complaints about Diamond for years. We've made complaints about Diamond for years. But somehow through all of this, they've come out of this looking like the good guy to the point where you have retailers saying, "Please, like, let's wait for Diamond. Everybody, like, stay on the same page. Let's all wait for Diamond. This plan from DC is bad. It's going to open up doors for all other things, and the next thing you know, we're going to have like 20 distributors that we're going to have to deal with." So, I mean, you really can't please everybody all the time. There are retailers who are in a position where they can sell books and they have the ability to take books and they're able to sell them, whether that's through an augmented, operational method like curbside pickup or delivery, or, some shops might be able to have limited amounts of people in their stores right now. And there's other shops that have no way at all of getting books to customers. So there's unfortunately an imbalance in the marketplace right now, and I don't know that there's a good way to fix it or that there's a good solution. You know, COVID
But
19 has really messed things up.
yeah, but is the solution for Marvel and DC not to produce anything ever? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like they have employees they need to feed and get money. You know what I mean? And
Sure,
they
and creators that want to be working, right?
so
And
I don't know. Like for retailers just to ask Marvel and DC to just stop everything seems unreasonable, right? Like what?
well, I mean, is it though? Like, there's I can see that side of the argument too. Like, it's not. At what price are you going to sacrifice health and safety of the people, your employees and your workers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Shouldn't they be at home too with their families in self isolation and quarantine while this all gets sorted out? It's tough. It's a hard decision. I don't begrudge any retailer that takes part in the new distribution channels and gets some books into their customers.
Are those
It's such a
distribution?
small it's such a small amount of books right now. Really, what I would like to see, before I make a commitment either way, is what are the shipping costs to Canada? Because we're up in Canada. If I was in the States, I might be more willing to jump on board, but shipping here is expensive. How much is that going to add on to the cost of my books? Am I going to be able to get the books in a timely manner? Like if I ordered books for next Wednesday, am I going to get them? Or not even next Wednesday, next Tuesday? Am I going to get them in time? So I think there's a lot of kinks that have to be worked out. I'm not necessarily closed off to the idea of sampling different sources for getting products. I will say that Diamond is by far the easiest option for retailers and the most convenient and probably the most cost effective until we can see otherwise. Um, so I have no doubt, perhaps DC's being very tight-lipped about this. Perhaps this is just a temporary measure until Diamond gets up off the ground. And then once Diamond's up off the ground, we can forgo those other distributors and everything just flows back through Diamond. But we just don't know. We just don't know right now. It's crazy times in the comic industry. What do you think? What would you do, Ricky?
I don't know, man. I think, gee, that's a tough one. I'd probably like, I don't know, turn to indie creators. That's usually what I do is
Right.
get them to,
Just like
supply.
Stadium has done with their Undergrowth #1 exclusive
Oh,
comic boxer.
yeah, boy.
No, it's definitely. I've seen a lot of great shops focusing on independent books and creator-owned stuff and small press. So it's definitely been. I've seen a lot of that, and a lot of that has been very successful for some shops. So that's great that it's giving an opportunity for some of these stories that might not have ever had an audience as large to be told to these new fans that are discovering it. So yeah, I mean there are some positives to this whole thing as well. Um, we talked about, so that's the whole DC thing. Um, story is developing, and we'll have a lot more information for you next week, I'm sure. We talked a little bit about the loans not going through for a lot of shops in the States. Here in Canada, the government's been pretty supportive. There's wage support available if you have staff on payroll. There's also like if you've had to lay any staff off or anything like that, uh, the emergency benefit that the government's created here is really handy for those people who can't get a paycheck right now. The government's really taking care of people in that sense. They've made like loans, small business loans available to businesses for 0% interest, and some grants and stuff that have been put out there as well. But it's some with anything that the government does, there's difficulties to qualifying for all that stuff. And just like anything the government does in the States, there definitely seems to be some difficulties qualifying for funding and loans and stuff like that. So for stores that aren't able to reach their customers and get new product or even backstock product in their hands, it's a really tough time right now, particularly if they have employees. But thankfully, there's organizations like Creators for Comics, who, if you've been anywhere near comic book Twitter over this last week, you see a lot of great auctions going on for Creators for Comics. The funds from those auctions are going towards the Book Industry Charity Foundation, BINC, and they're going to funnel those to stores that are in need. Only applies to U.S. stores, unfortunately, which is, it's crazy because you see all these great Canadian comic book creators, sketching this stuff for this charity, and it's selling. This charity's this initiative, not the charity, is making a ton of money. That's going to go to really great use to a lot of shops in the States. And thankfully, somebody stepped up to offer something similar for Canadian stores. It was just announced this week that the Comic Legends Legal Defense Fund is putting together the resources to help fundraising efforts similar to the Creators for Comics down in the States. So we're bound to see another round of really awesome sketches from awesome creators to support Canadian stores. So really happy to see that, and I'm willing to promote that any way that we can to get the word out about that. Have you seen any of these Creators for Comics sketches, Ricky?
Yeah, I saw it was a Bizarro Superman that was really cool by Jim Lee.
I
was
saw
like,
one that you would really like that Jim Lee actually linked to. It was a Sam Keith sketch of
what?
Wolverine, and forget who the other person was, but it looked friggin' amazing. I bet you it sold for a pretty penny. Um, but yeah, Jim Lee's kicking out 60 sketches in 60 days. You got a lot of stuff going on to fundraise for comic shops right now, and it's really, really great to see. So yeah. Anyway, that's comic industry update. Hope you guys are enjoying this download of this information dump on the industry. I know it's not as exciting as
Yeah.
colorful covers to brand new comics, but
Yeah. And it's tough, man. Like with nothing new going on, like every time
yeah.
you hang out with someone, you're like, hey, what's up? And you're like, nothing. Cool, cool. And then that's it, man.
When are you hanging out with people?
Well,
That's
like,
not allowed, Ricky. Oh,
when you talk
virtually,
stuff.
virtually.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just it's so annoying. I think life now is just more annoying. You know what I mean? It's not at least like I'm lucky where it's not like difficult and I'm not like sick or anything. It's
Right.
just annoying.
Things are getting on your nerves more.
Yeah, man. And like you're just eating the same food over and over again and you're like, what? Where's the chicken? Where's the KFC, man? I mean, I guess you still order that, but who's
Oh
got
yeah.
time? Who's got time to order that stuff, man?
Right.
Ordered a burrito, it was like $15. It's crazy.
It's a long, it's a long way from the Shoppers World food court, isn't it?
Dude, I
Yeah.
miss
Miss those
that.
times. Ricky, we held a contest last week. Um, got some really good answers. You're asking people what their
Yeah.
most prized possession is in their collection. or just in their lives, their personal collection.
So Ken Ives, he said, my most cherished thing in my comic collection is Backwash Comics. It was my first self-published Xerox comic that I made in the 90s. Ken Ives, can you send me a copy of that, please? I 100% want some Backwash comics.
I'm thinking Xeroxed backwashed comics could be the next big comic boxer inclusion.
Yeah, what would the homage cover be? Like an Aquaman cover or something?
No, we'll go with the original cover, and I think the more times it's Xeroxed, the better.
Mhm.
So it gets like extra like
Yeah,
grain and black. I think it'll be gritty. It's gonna start a whole new like aesthetic for like underground comics.
I like it. But for real, Ken Ives, like, send a message to Stadium Comics. What's the email? Info at Stadium Comics?
Info@stadiumcomics.com.
If you have copies, I want copies. You should see my self-published collection. It's pretty. I'm pretty happy with it. Although, I mean, it's.
Where can people view that, Ricky?
I think I did a dive into it on my Instagram. If anyone wants to look at it, king.k.rule. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of local Toronto guys, so it's not like anything like legendary or epic or anything. But I'm pretty happy with that. I like what I got.
Nice.
But next we have Mike Irish, who said my prized possession is Batman 440, first part of the Lonely Place of Death, because it was the first comic book I ever bought. Still have it. Well,
See, Mike Irish and I started buying comics right around the same time, 1989, probably right after the Tim Burton Batman movie.
What was your favorite or first comic that you bought?
The first comic I bought was the comic book adaptation of the 1989 Batman Tim Burton movie.
Oh man, what a tool!
I mean, I was 10 years old. What do you want from me?
I think the first comics I bought was actually at Stadium.
Yeah, and what were you, like 25 when you bought your first comic? I was 10. All right.
I was like young. It was me and my friend Bruno, if you remember from Flavorful Sauce. And we walked in and we just bought some like random comic. I bought like a Hulk comic where he was like on a throne. I don't know where it is. I probably still have it, but it was cool. And then then when I really got into comics, that was like a couple years later, and that was at Stadium. And that was the first series was The Dark Tower. That's what got me into comics.
Oh, Stephen King's Dark Tower. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you were big into that.
I have pretty much every issue, man. It was great.
Nice.
Joker's Midnight Show said the most valuable, cherished thing they have is the reaction figures from the Dark Crystal. Bought them new for $12 and $26 each, and now the set is worth $2,500 last I checked.
Whoa.
Comic related, my complete Dark Horse Presents collection. Oh ho ho! Joker's Midnight Show hitting it up with the real stuff.
That's pretty crazy. $2,500. I should check into like I got a bunch of reaction figures for like Big Trouble in Little China and Karate Kid and all that kind of stuff. Probably not worth anything.
Good stuff is worth money, Kevin.
Oh.
No, those movies are good. But that Dark Horse Presents collection is pretty sweet too. Like, isn't there a Dark Horse Presents? Isn't that where Duckman started? Do you remember Duckman?
Duckman?
Yeah, it was on. It was on TV. The Duckman with George.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it started in Dark Horse Presents.
I was thinking Darkwing Duck for some reason. No. Yeah, Duckman. That was a whole other thing. Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't. Yeah. Dark Horse Presents issue.
Looking it up?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't find it. But yeah, Dark Horse Presents 1990. So that's pretty cool, man. Joker's Midnight Show got that first appearance of Duckman. Oh, number 22. Dark Horse Presents number 22.
Well, there's your bit of trivia for today.
At least I think it's fine. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? But
we could do a whole episode on Duckman, folks.
Yeah, right. So that's pretty cool. Congratulations, Joker's Midnight Show. Next up, we have 74 Screw Gun, who says, "Great show, guys." Naturally. Ricky, I missed last week's show, but I would have turned you into beef a casa, which is like a Portuguese dish, and which is very apt because I am Portuguese. So
What?
I know, right? So that's pretty good. But it's basically just like regular steaks and potatoes. It's not really anything fancy. So it's got an egg usually. So my mom makes a pretty good one. I'm not gonna lie. And then they continue saying, Kevin, my favorite book in my collection would have to be Amazing Spider-Man 300 that I got signed by Stan Lee on his last Canadian show before he passed away.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Do you think that's the stadium cover? Didn't you guys have a
No,
stadium?
that was for Amazing Spider-Man 666.
Right,
He's talking about Amazing Spider-Man 300, which was
right.
the
That's the Todd McFarlane one, right?
first Venom. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. Like those Stan Lee signatures. I know he did a lot of them, but I think they're still worth a lot. So,
They are. Yeah. Yeah. Well, who was the big winner, Ricky?
well, the big winner goes to Flatlander, who said, "My prized possession is love and understanding. There should be more in the world." Wow,
Oh, deep.
that's deep,
Flatlander. That is deep.
man. I never heard of that comic though. That's a new one to me. No, I'm kidding.
Well, there's Love and Rockets. Maybe he meant that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
that's you know what, Flatlander, that is a message that's just perfect for these times. Congrats on that, and we could all use a little bit of more love and understanding in our collections. And for that moment of that poetic comment, you will win the prize from last week. What were we giving away? Do you remember?
no, I
I don't
don't
remember. no,
remember.
no recollection. Was it a copy of Argus? I'm not
Oh
sure.
yeah, it was signed Argus, I think.
Okay. Um, Ricky, we need a question for this week, though. I know you're
Yeah.
fixated on Duckman right now. Do you want to make it Duckman related, or like, what should we go with?
Oh
Something
man.
publisher related?
Geez. Or we could talk about like X-Men somehow, 14 X-Men.
Oh, working into Undergrowth, that kind of thing.
What is like your favorite first appearance of a character?
Okay, yeah, let's go with that. In the history of comics, what's your favorite first appearance of a character and why? What is it about that first appearance or that character that really struck a chord with you?
Do you
You
have
don't have to
one?
answer. Do I have one?
Yeah.
Um, First appearance. That is a great question. Oh man, got to think about that. Like Michonne showing up in The Walking Dead is always a really good one. Just she
Yeah.
like when people show up and they're just badass right from the start.
Right.
And yeah,
I think
I
for
like first
me,
appearances like that.
nice. I think for me, my favorite first appearance was Spider Woman, because she shows up in some like Marvel Presents book, and she's like bald and like really weird, and people are like, "Why is it? Are you related to Spider Man? Like, what's going on?" And then she becomes like her own character later, which is nice and a lot better of a character design than uh,
Nice.
than her first one. So
All right, cool. Well, the winning answer for this week will what can they win, Ricky? Do you think we can set aside a copy of Undergrowth for them?
yeah, man.
All right, cool. We'll set aside one of my copies that I paid for.
All right.
Won't take it out of your personal. Hey, before we go, I want to show you something real quick. I'm going to share my screen here. I found that Sam Keith picture while you were going on
Nice.
and on about Duckman. Um,
Yo,
yeah,
you know,
it's Wolverine and Venom. You see
oh,
that?
oh man, Sam Keats has the best Wolverine.
So good, right?
Yo, man, you know how like Sam Keith just makes Wolverine so hairy? That's where it's
Yeah,
at.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that's wicked.
You like the Neil Adams style arm hair.
Yeah, he
And
almost
what book was that? Batman Odyssey?
yeah,
Yeah.
and he makes like Venom hairy too. Like, what's going on with the back of his head?
I don't know, but whatever it is, it's working. It's working for him.
I had some Marvel trading cards when I was young, and there's a Sam Keith Wolverine in there, and I didn't know it because I was a dumb kid. But I was like, "Yo, this is wicked," and turns out it was Sam Keith, man.
Nice.
It's so good.
Well, on that note, thank you everybody for watching. Take care. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing over the next week. Oh, and tune in Wednesday night, the 22nd of April, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a big announcement about something coming your way in just under 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be a live announcement. So tune in for that. Should be a lot of fun. I won't take up too much of your time with the announcement. I promise. All right. Take care, everybody. See ya.
See ya.